Welcome everyone to episode 5 of Club Baroness. Today we're going to be covering the end of the Swiss rounds and the beginning of playoffs. We're down to 8 teams now, and we're going to be going into a double elimination style tournament. I would like to introduce our guest, Poor Choices,
Hello.
as well as our other host, Guinan.
It's me.
And let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk a little bit about the split and how it was cut and what the format is going forward.
Okay, well, I'll start off because I'm new. I think it's interesting finally going from Swiss. I know a few people have had problems with the Swiss format, basically how everything broke down and the matchups. But going back into sort of a standard elimination format, I think is going to open things up and make things interesting because now we're going to see teams who have played each other and who are ready to play each other again. I think this is where some of the more tricky Arsenal selections come in, and some of the more player-dependent skills, knowing certain players can't dodge disintegrate and those sort of situations. I think that's where it's going to come out more. So I think we're going to see kind of a chippier play style going forward.
That's our first shade of the match right there. Instead of first blood, we've got first shade of the podcast.
Yeah.
Can't dodge disintegrate.
On my screen, by the way, you guys are watching my screen. I'm sorry, I guessed. I showed you the cut, where it ended up being. You note that some players kind of moved up a little bit after round 3. Some players moving down and missing the cut. We'll get back into those specifics. I gave you the seed number and a really lame line to show who's playing who. Just really quick, I will give you these. Xanxus and Zexus are going to be playing Monkey and Silver. Doom and Ronan are going to be playing Ghost and Multitude. Me and Bregan are going to play, with our friends Murder and PD. And then Mimic and Goat.
Round 2 of the frenemies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 6 teams didn't make it in. It'll be 8 in the double elimination going from here on out. Guinan, tell me a little bit about how the matchups are going to go from here forward.
All right, so this looks like a standard tournament that you guys might see. We're going to have a bracket. After you cut, you play the opposite seed. So the top plays the bottom all the way up to the middle. That's why you see 4 and 5 and 1 and 8. In the quarterfinals, there's 4 matches, and there'll be 2 undefeated teams. The 2 can go into the losers bracket because this is a double elimination. So that means they're not out until they lost twice. But they're on a longer road. They have extra matches to make up and try to get back at it. For the winners, it goes to quarterfinals, a semifinals, and a finals. You're going to see a total of like 10 matches, roughly. I'm not doing the math offhand, but I think it's about 10 matches. After some eliminations, there'll be fewer per round.
So let's talk about the second round too. So after this round is over, say for example, I lose again, since just going off of the initial results. Say I lose again and I go down into the lower bracket, and who would I play realistically? Do we have the bracket yet?
He hasn't made the bracket yet. It's coming out tonight. I will link it in this video afterwards.
Okay, so we can't exactly discuss what might happen in round 2, but essentially losers will play losers and winners will play winners, and then it's double elimination, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll have to see who joins me in the losers bracket. It'll be fun.
Oh, you already sound so defeated.
I essentially am. I'm playing against Guinan, right?
I ain't
that's-
nobody.
That's going to be an interesting
fantastic.
matchup, I think, though. I don't know if any 2 teams know each other as well as you 2 know each other.
I would like everyone to break out the smallest violin at hand, and let's talk about the teams that didn't make the cut. We'll talk about each one. Play a sad song while we're at it. Maybe overlay some of the fray over this video. So looking at our list, let's talk about Esper and Evolution in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's, really able to accept that. I think they're better players than what showed up. I mean, Esper, I don't think anyone can offhand say how they can take him one-on-one. And Evolution, of course, is known for some crazy deck styles. Seeing them towards the bottom, I think, is really disappointing. But I don't think that's the last we're going to see of them. Maybe as a pair, but they're both two very high-level players. I'd expect to see them again next time out.
Yeah, it was really surprising and seemed like a bit of a tough break. Like they just really, I think we talked about it in the first video that it was going to depend heavily on whether they could develop synergy together because they were a new team, and that's what we didn't see. I think they're both very strong players with differing play styles that could have meshed together. It seems like that they just weren't able to put things together, but I think they could have been a very strong team, and it was, I think like 2 or 3 of us had them written down as our dark horse to make top 4.
Yeah, they ended up pretty similar to Will and Math. I think you have like someone who I wouldn't really want to 1v1 teaming up with someone who has some really interesting arsenal creations, and it just the way it comes out, I suppose.
Yeah, it was a tough break. I guess we'll continue working from the bottom up. Dwayne and Jay as well.
Now, for me, I saw, because I watched a couple, and thankfully they were two that actually posted a few videos. It was really interesting to see how they changed over time. I mean, the first match, they weren't really hanging anything. By the third one or so, they were starting to hang things, but it just really wasn't working out. Now, their synergy got a little better, but you could tell that they weren't really used to each other's play styles, and I think their decks didn't really mesh together well enough in the beginning or towards the middle. I think that's what we really saw with them.
Yeah, I've talked to Jay some. I haven't talked to Dwayne much lately. And it sounds like this was kind of like some matchmaking at the end. Like, they didn't go into this saying, we're going to tag forever. Like, there were people who, got along and wanted to tag, but they had to build synergy from almost nothing. So how far they came is pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, I thought they actually had some really good matches, despite their 0-3 loss, for example, to you, Guinan. I thought they played really well, and there was 2 of those matches where it looked like they should have been favored to win it, and they just faltered the ball towards the end. And I think as a team, too, it's a double cartwheeler team, which is something I've never really been a fan of, despite the fact that we have a double cartwheeler team at the top of our table right now. I feel like
you really don't like it?
Oh, gosh. That hurt.
Sorry.
That hurts deep in my soul. Yeah, it's something that can be exploited, I think, more easily than, say, double jumpers could be exploited. I think a mix is best, a jumper and a cartwheeler.
I
think that's fair.
I don't know if people know this. Because I played through the single player 3 times, thank you, Beta. I actually got really custom playing a jumper and had for a very long while at the beginning of Phantom Dust's release. I specifically went back to being cartwheeler because I believed it was necessary for our team comp.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
Did we lose him?
Well.
Here, my controller died there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it was interesting, you were saying. Maybe his controller's still dead. So...
yeah, we'll talk about it a little more. I've always felt that, like, when you take them at their base value, I've always felt that a jumper is the more aggressive, whereas a cartwheeler is more defensive, because as a cartwheeler, there's just certain things that you stop having to worry about that a jumper has to be constantly paranoid about. Like, you can hit a cartwheeler with a flame sword, but for the most part, as long as they're paying attention and they're not caught in a corner, like, they can cartwheel in just about any direction, and flame sword is not a concern. Whereas a jumper, yes, you can walk it, but you have to make an actual effort and, be in the correct angle to hit that. Whereas a cartwheeler, for the most part, you mash the button and, well, no flame sword.
And if you're getting hit by like a hyper kick and a willow, you feel pretty bad being a cartwheeler. But a jumper may be able to make short work of that, especially if they're really proficient with it. So there's a lot of specifics.
Yeah, do we have you back? Poor choices?
Small intermission. Intermission over. So what were we saying, poor choices? Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, I think it's interesting that, back in the early meta of the game, cartwheeling was everything. It's very easy to dodge. It's like having an extra shield. But what you're seeing in tag is because the amount of dazzles and decoys and other interrupting skills, it's almost more of a liability to have 1 and or 2 cartwheelers. I think the jumping teams are proving to be more stable at this higher level, so long as they're able to jump things like Gehenna and I think it's easier to jump vibration, actually. And since we're seeing a lot of vibration, I think that's coming into play with what we're seeing outside of maybe the top tier of cartwheelers.
Yeah, that's fair. I think at least having one gives you an edge in either side of playing environmentals. And I think that's notable. Like, you can place environmentals to hang easier or pick them up from more options. If you're against double cartwheeler, you can just place it somewhere and just they can't do anything about it. You don't have to hang it.
Right.
Yeah, even on lane, there's places that you can place it, which is essentially like unless you got speed ups, you just can't get to.
All right.
And there's a couple places.
All right. So we were talking about the teams. We said Esper and Dwayne. So
next would be Sandal Inc. and Filthy. The Filthy Sandals. This was a team I was really hyped to see. They did deliver some good matches. We saw some really fun stuff out of these guys, and they put up a good fight. They missed playoffs, just barely losing to Monkey and Silver Saint. It sounds like it was a pretty good series back and forth. From what I said, from what I heard, Monkey and Silver Saint pulled out some pretty hardcore jank on them, and that was actually part of what surprised me is they managed to, out jank Sandal Inc. Collected dust, the mind of the game, but they did, making it in as our
I think what we
seed.
have to notice with them though is they did face 3 teams that did make the top 8, so they definitely had a hard schedule going forward. I mean, they lost to Goat, Mimic, and Monkey, and all 3 of those teams are there. So I think they're probably better than where they placed, but I did not have them in my top 8 from the beginning.
They lost to me, Mimic, and then they beat Dwayne and Sandal. No, they didn't. Okay. They didn't play Goat. They beat Dwayne. They beat Dwayne and Sandal. Monkey.
Oh, Monkey. You're out. Monkey. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Monkey beat Dwayne and Sandal, and then he lost to me and Mimic.
I think Sandal and Filthy is a team where I'd like to say that they have a lot of potential that may have been thwarted by playtime. I don't think they got to play together a lot outside of tourney matches. There's some other teams, circling Nathan and Wolf, we'll talk about them later, that may have encountered the same issue, and it hurts. You need to get that practice in.
And from what I was hearing too, there was a lot of communication issues there. They just weren't on the same page when it came to coordinating arsenals and coordinating moves in games. I think Sandal was telling me about how one laid down an environmental that wasn't good for the other, and then somebody else ended up crushing an environmental that they both needed. They had some missteps, some communication issues, but it's a team that, given a fix on those communication issues, I think could make a much deeper run.
I mean, I do like their name, so yeah.
Filthy Sandals.
And you might even see. So I'm going to be honest. This is what happens a lot after big tournaments, especially if you're looking at the MOBA scene. We're going to see some of these teams that worked really well together may stick around. We might see some of these players move, and I'd be really interested if they move. If we see I don't know, Evolution and Sandal. I don't know that this is happening. Just an example of someone who'd be a really crazy jank team, right, where they'd come up with some insane stuff. Or maybe they'll play some more.
I think if we're going to see, we could have a whole podcast on that after the tournament's over. Because I know a lot. I know a lot of people have rumblings of switching partners. I think about half the teams are probably going to end up switching partners by the end of this. Next up,
Will and Math.
I was going to say, speaking of combination names, I Will Math 101.
Or Mr. Ryder.
I Will Math, I think works.
I'm really sold on the I Will Math.
But this was a team for me. I did not expect them to finish where they finished. I've played with these guys a couple of times, and I know Math is obviously very well known for the one-on-one, but I thought they synced well together. I think I've played a few while they were doing some of their warm-up matches, and they had some good stuff. I don't know exactly what happened to them in the tournament. I'm not sure we got a lot of video out of them, but it's certainly not where I expected them to end up.
I have kind of a prediction of how this went. Much like Esper and Evolution or Dwayne J. And actually, all of these 4 teams we talked about so far are kind of last-minute connections. They didn't play together a long time before that. But Math made a huge point of practicing with Will, getting on together, making arsenals and stuff. And that made it look like there was a lot they could do. But from my experience, and I'm not saying this is a judgment, it looks like they ended up making a couple things they did, brought it, and people got prepared because maybe they've seen it before, maybe a side effect of the videos.
You know, I'm not sure. And I think if I'm looking at the rankings after Nathan and Wolf's last loss, I think they were the highest ranked 3-1 team. These guys actually had a lot of close series. They went 3-2 versus Gotrix and Silent. They had a really close series versus Nathan and Wolf. And then I think they also had like a 3-1 or a 3-2 versus Mimic and Mesrath. So all of their series where they lost, they had some close games. They weren't just, giving it up. So these guys were really close to having just, one or two series different. Could have made it in.
One game difference could have really done it, honestly.
Right.
Like one of the 3-2s.
Like, they were the team that in the break, they were a 1-2 team, and they had to go up against a 2-1 team. Mm-hmm. So the last round they played was against Mimic and Mesra. So they did have to play a team with a better rank. That was the only time that happened in this tournament, where a team had to play somebody with a different win-loss record than them. And they still went, they still went like 3-1, 3-2 against them. It was a close match. And Mimic and Mesrath, I think, is our number 4 team right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then, is it Jokers or Nathan next? Let's talk about Nathan and Wolf, because they're next on this.
Yeah, we'll talk about Nathan and Wolf. I think we can dig into it more later as well, but this is a team that I at least predicted to be top 4. It's really interesting for me to see them down here.
And I think that would have been a fair prediction at any point in time. Everybody knows these two players. They've been playing forever. They've been playing together forever. And they've always done really well.
Yeah, they've placed the top of their tag tournaments before. They're almost always towards semifinals.
Nathan
really known to be big minds of the game. Yeah, they have some great arsenal combinations. They're like the epitome of a control team and a team that's better than the sum of their parts. Both good individual players, but when they're put together, the wealth of experience they have playing together makes them into a really great team normally. And so for me, it's surprising to see them down here. But
well, Nathan's not here. But if I was going to speak for him, this is in jest, mind you, he would say, well, it's definitely all Wolf's fault, or something about Wolf having to go because of family issues. I think he would be joking, but he would definitely say that. So I'm just going to fill in for him right now. Darn you, Wolf.
Are you throwing shade on his behalf? Is that?
Yes, I am, because he's not here.
Fair enough.
Some weak shade.
I didn't, like I said, I don't want to say anything about people who aren't here, but I figured he would do it. So, in your memory, Nathan.
I guess our last one who didn't make the cut then, it was kind of, a little upsetting. It's Jokers and Sadistic Soul. I think Gotrix would have been favored to win that match as it was, but they just weren't able to make the game this past week and a half, and they had to forfeit there. So they didn't end up making the cut, which does give us Monkey and Silver Saint in playoffs. But you got to give credit to Jokers and Sadistic Soul through this tournament. I don't think they came in with a lot of people believing in them, but they, put some of those disbelievers down with wins over Ghost and Multitude and Nathan and Wolf, 2 strong teams, and they had good series against other teams as well. And I would have been really excited to see the series between Gotrix and Jokers, because I think it would have been a close one, even if I didn't favor Gotrix.
I also think it would have been a close one, and I think Gotrix, it might actually be, and Silent might be suffering from not having that extra one last serious competition match.
Yeah, he actually mentioned that he wanted to play.
I think it hurts your momentum. It hurts your mindset going forward, because you can play casual all you want. I mean, there's a difference between like, well, if I lose this, that's unfortunate, and if I lose this, I might not make a tournament.
Yeah,
and I think that extra pressure, it's really going to be, it's unfortunate for them as well that they missed out on that match.
Okay, and so as we move forward, I'm just going to list the teams remaining in, and then we're going to move on. We won't talk about the teams still in, because we'll talk about them in their matchups. But right now,
they're all visual, so you don't necessarily have to name them if you don't want to.
Okay, well, we do see Xanxus and Zexus lead, and then we have, as you can see in the infographic, if it's up on screen again, you can see the order they're in. Monkey and Silver Saint round us out as our last playoff team, and let's talk a bit about, I know Poor Choices was interested in this, some statistics that we have, noticed as we've gone through.
Okay, well, tracking the wins, at least from when they were last updated, I think something I saw that's very interesting is a lot of the top teams have a go-to level where they're undefeated. Now, I think this is pretty big, especially when it comes towards the middle of a matchup, because it can really be a momentum shift. So for me, I mean, if I'm playing Bregan, I'm banning the Palace right away. They've not been defeated there. They took Doom out there. And,
Which is
it's the same
statistically
yeah.
Doom's best map usually too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not anymore. I think you beat him out there now.
That's true. I guess I
but for
altered
Doom,
time and reality.
Doom is undefeated on City.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, and for Mimic and Mesrath and Xanxus, both of them, their best map is Lane, and minus the ban on Refinery, Reborn is undefeated there as well. So I think what you're getting is interesting statistics. The further along we go in the tournament, we can start to see, it's not just the strategies. There's certain maps and probably decks to go along with those maps where everybody kind of has their own thing going. And I don't want to give too much away because I kind of know some of these teams better than others to what they're playing on those maps. But it's really interesting, I think, now that we're in the double elimination portion, for the teams that are doing their homework to get a little bit more strategic with bans and a little bit more strategic with anti-decks targeted towards those specific strategies.
Yeah, I have that chart right here, and just to look at some more of these, Xanxus and Mimic are both undefeated on lane.
Like you said, yeah.
Me and Jokers, though they didn't make the cut, undefeated on Sign, a very specific one, I suppose. One you don't expect because it's last in the series. Means we get the clinchers.
See some other interesting things, like for example, my team before the last round hadn't even played any of the last two maps. Yeah, we hadn't played Lane or Sign at all, and now we have a loss on both thanks to Doom's reverse sweep.
Reverse sweep, I like it.
Sure, we'll hear about that later.
I don't even want to talk about that. And then we also have, for example, if you look down there, Lane hasn't been banned yet. Every other map has at least 6 bans, but Lane hasn't been banned once.
It says something to the map. You can hide from long range. You can't hang. You can run from short range. Like it's balanced in a way that some others aren't.
Yeah,
no,
and
I
think a lot of people like to put, like, if we do look at the bans, we see the two most banned maps are actually Palace and Highway, and I think a lot of people just prefer to load their bans onto the first couple of maps because they feel like that way their ban is more likely to be impactful. Because if you ban Sign or you ban Lane, like, you could still just lose out 3-0 and you never even see your banned stage give you an advantage as well.
I mean, you may want to ban Sign if, for instance, you feel really sturdy in Palace, Highway, Pano, but otherwise, you still might ban Bregan's City, for instance.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying you should make all your decisions based on that, but
that, or you can just bring a judgment to City.
Oh, we'll bring it up later.
That'll come up later, I'm sure. But, okay, those are just some stats on the bans I think that we're finally getting to see. We can start making more inferences the more data we get. But
so,
if you want to move on.
Yeah, we can move on. We're going to have a little bit of a guest portion here. We're just going to talk to you, Poor Choices, since you haven't been in any of these before. Had a few questions for you, and then we're going to round off with a fun one there before we move on to the matchups. So, when this tournament started, Poor Choices, you played against a lot of these people, you knew these people, versus now, who would have been your top 4 teams before this tournament began, and versus who you rank top 4 now?
All right, well, I think a lot of my top 4 would stay the same. Doom would be up there, Xanxus, Bregan, you would have been up there, Geigen, and I probably would have still had Gotrix. Other than that, I would have put Nathan, Will Ryder, and probably Esper. Those would have been my top. What am I at, 7 now?
Maybe 8. That's the cut then. Probably
7 or all right. That would have been my top of the cut. I have played against Mimic and Mesrath, but maybe only once. I would not have had enough faith to put them in the top 8. I would not have put Monkey up there or Ghost, even though I know they're very good teams, and I've not ever played with them as a tag partner, but I've played with I think most of those people individually. But yeah, I was very surprised by how things kind of shook out. Again, I would have had Will Ryder up there, and Esper and Evolution. who both kind of wound up towards the bottom. Um, so to me, it's been very interesting to see how things are shaking out, because you're never quite going to see the same in casual play that you see with these tournament matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and let's see. How about you haven't played in the tournament against these guys, but you played casually and they were able to see some of the videos of it. What are some differences you've noticed in the teams in their play casually versus their tournament play?
Well, Xanxus and Zexus, I think, are pretty much the same casually or they are in tournament, except they might play a few more fun decks here or there.
I think it's a pretty fair
but
assessment.
They
I was
both get
thinking
off,
the same.
yeah, they both get off very aggressive, even when they're just playing around. I mean, just playing around with them is, hey, can we kill this person in the first 30 seconds with a flame sword, instead of can we wait the first 45 seconds and kill them with the flame sword and also have our shields ready to go. So it's not too different. As far as, I mean, obviously, Geigen and Murder have a lot of fun decks they like to use that they don't ever really use during the actual tournament. A lot of interesting kind of new crafts and creations.
Many of them he doesn't let me play, but I do it anyways.
Well, I think that might be the biggest benefit you had in switching partners, is you had somebody who knows how to tell you no.
Yeah, that probably helps. I don't think your crazy neutralization what was it? You freeze everyone and then disintegrate.
Look, that could have happened. That was the chill movement, chill breeze. Is that it? I don't know.
Yes, your chill breeze. You're right. There's a chill breeze neutralization crazy deck, and I don't think we'll ever see something like that in the tournament, just because of how situational it is. But they're fun and good ideas that are helpful and casual. But from what I've seen, yeah, there's a lot of these teams. I know Jay and Dwayne weren't really hanging stuff in casual. I think that's something they specifically did to try to up the game in tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly interesting to see. I think the most interesting thing, though, is that you can't see some of these teams the way they play different, either by accident, design, or maybe they just don't want to upload them. I think there's some teams we're not getting to see a lot out of, and I'm wondering if for any of them, if it's a conscious choice, if they don't want videos out there because there's things that they're specifically trying to do that they're keeping mostly under wraps.
That could be a good read.
But I don't know.
Who's your wild card that you think has something hidden?
Okay.
Out of the remaining teams, that is.
Right. Out of the remaining teams, I actually, maybe it's because I haven't seen much from them, but I'm interested to see what Mimic and Mesreth have up their sleeves. From the one video we do have, I mean, even most of that action, we can't really see what's going on. But from when I played with them, I want to say that they seemed sort of vanilla strategy-wise, but I don't think that's what we're going to see out of them. But since I haven't seen or read a lot of game breakdowns against them specifically, I'm not sure what they're bringing. I think the other teams, I kind of know what they're bringing and where they're going, but maybe because they're a dark horse or I don't have any info on them, I'm kind of interested to see what they do going forward. I think that first matchup for them is going to be very telling about where they should really shake out in the breakdown, because Goat and Silent are a very sturdy team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. So here's a fun one. I believe we have running here. You've been showing some of the footage from my match and your match, right, Guinan?
I'm doing your match right now, and then we'll do mine after.
Where are we right now? We on the city game?
We're on Panorama, actually.
Oh, we're on Panorama? Okay, well, it's coming up. Poor choices. To play a little off your name here, who had the worst? Well, I guess not quite. I guess let's say who had the
poorest choice.
Who had the poorest choice?
All right, we'll do poorest choice and then worst game or worst breakdown there. I recommend, if you guys haven't watched it, to each go watch the commented video with Geigen versus Xanxus and Bregan versus Doom. They're both really good videos. Bregan gets off to a nice start, and a few wins. For me, his poorest choice of the match, though, and it might not be something that's very obvious. There were a few other obvious mistakes, but for me, I think it finally turned around on lane. There's an interesting point where his partner is really low in health, and instead of kind of running to kind of coordinate with him, he's going and trying to burn through his arsenals to pick up skills. And he sort of gets trapped in a corner twice and eats 2 Excaliburs kind of within the 30 seconds. And although I'm not sure if that's what kills him, I think eating 14 damage and sort of flipping a very open game kind of loses their momentum going. Not only losing lane, but I think that sort of carries on in sign in their play style. And so I think that's my poor choices for him. For Geigen, I think if anyone who's seen that saw how helpless he was on Panorama, he's running around cartwheeling because he has no skills.
That feels
nothing he can use. So he's that whole deck where we see the auto capture just get destroyed by the lack, and the bravery decision just work out completely horribly. I think that is my poorest choice overall for both of them, and it is the most entertaining yet tragically sad moment of Phantom Dust I've seen, I think, this entire tournament.
At least on video. It was tragic inside and out.
Well, my question
yes,
is, which was the poorer choice, though?
I think
not dodging the lack or running that arsenal?
I think running that arsenal, because from what I put together of how that arsenal was built, I mean, it just seems incredibly situational, incredibly flimsy. I mean, even from a glass cannon standpoint, it's not something I would have expected from him with all the decks we've seen, and of course from his own videos of making arsenals better. It's not an arsenal I would have expected him to use because it just gets torn apart so easily.
Just for some
So that is, congratulations, it is my poorest choice of the tournament.
Yay. For some further insight, I won't defend it. I'm just going to give further insight on it. That arsenal is actually one of the youngest arsenals I've ever played in the tournament. Like, it was only a couple of days old. But, like, we had been practicing beforehand against, players of name, players of note, tag teams. At least, like, probably 10 different players, 3 sets of tags within them. It was running, like, 90+% win rate, and it was fast, and it was furious, and it was really effective. I mean, I don't know if that was enough to make it worth something that was obviously very risky, but at the time it seemed like it was. Hindsight.
Right, and in hindsight will always be 2020, but I think you knew who you were playing. I think it's just a little flimsy, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
To be fair, the lax caught me off guard. They did flex their playstyle a little bit, and to their credit, mind you.
Yeah. Good point.
All right, I guess we'll move on from there. Did you have any other questions you would like to ask? Poor choices.
I mean, we kind of put it on the me to ask him or him to ask us.
Either one. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask us? Poor choices.
Yes. Present company included. Can you name 3 players you would have liked to see in the tournament, and possibly who you'd like to see in the next tournament?
I think it was a real shame that Boinked and Ninja Boy had to drop out. I think they could have been easily a playoff team, probably also top 4. Those guys played really well.
I'm actively bringing my friends list up because there's some people, but I can't think of it offhand.
I mean, there's some other established tag teams that I would have liked to have seen as well. I don't know if they would have been playoff, potential, like Silent Storm and Pandas in the Nude would have been fun to have. Gohan and Goku.
Ebony and Scarface, yeah.
I was going to say Ebony and Savage Sim as well.
What about some kamikaze choices?
Right, that's kind of where I was really going.
Would that make it like the worst choice at that point? It's not even poor choices, it's the worst choices?
We see some people who I think the excitement of the tournament, or maybe just the game itself, has made them play a little more, intensely than they were before, and we're going to see, like, come next sign-up, a lot more come out of them.
I think there's going to be a lot of mix-up. I think we're going to see some of those other established teams. There's a lot of other big names that weren't in it either. We had Pisshound, formerly known as Smide. He made it really far in the 1v1 tournament. Poor Choices wasn't in. Chief DNB, DNS Terror. There's a lot of big names out there. Scorpion, now running under the tag Sky Knight. These are all players that are really strong, have made deep run in tournaments before that we haven't seen.
I think it'll be interesting to see if the Civil War tournament causes a shakeup of teams or maybe gets some new players in for the next big 2-on-2 tournament. Looking forward to see how that shakes out.
Yeah. This isn't an announcement, mind you, but it looks like the next one will probably just be like an elimination tournament, something more of a quick bang, and hopefully we can throw that out and really see these guys head to
Yeah.
head.
The second 1v1 tournament signups are opening today, and you can sign up for that. We'll decide on format once the signups are done, but we're looking at double elimination possibly, and the Civil War tournament will probably start right around the time the 1v1 tournament's done, a round or two, so that way we've cut some of the players down.
The format is actually you see who can run the most around the tree. That's our 1v1 tournament. The winner gets the most runs
Pro
around
tip,
the tree.
always ban Palace. Always ban Palace.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll have that going on. And does anybody else have any more cross questions for anybody?
No.
All right, I've got one poor choices. I'm gonna take some of the top teams, and I want to say what I want to know what you would do to beat them. Start from the top with Xanxus and Zexus. What's your like hidden strat?
All right. It's going to be kind of contrary, but they are so good with the aggressive and the quick start. I don't want to play the opposite. I don't want to try to draw things out. I don't want to try to get a late running. I want to get equally aggressive with them. So I have a deck specifically for Xanxus and Zexus. If I have a good partner, it's kind of a vibration blazing deck. So I want to come right at them with blazing, and then if I get beaten back, then I've got something for late game. But I think the only way to really hang with them is to try to get them to back off by being equally aggressive. That's my strategy with them.
That's a fair point. I think momentum in a match is a really big deal. If you're able to get them off of their lead foot, I think that's a really big way to take down Xanxus and Zexus. I agree.
It's also easier said than done.
Right.
But that is what I'd be looking to do. Yeah.
All right, Doom. You got Doom and Ronan facing you. What's the plan?
Forfeit. I'm still tilted.
I think Doom and Ronan, I think from what we've seen, is they can be thrown off. I think if you pick
Did we lose him again?
some two and
good.
100.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry if my mic's cutting out for a sec. I think Doom and Ronan, for what I would do is I would try to get one of them 2-on-1 and sort of split them up. They seem to be a very synchronized team, and if you can sort of mess with that synchronization, I think you can open up some possibility. I think, Bregan, you did it really well, where you guys you kind of left your partner for a second. Yeah, on Palace, you left your partner alone for a second, but then you guys started pushing, and then you were able to just 2-on-1 each of them and pick them off while they tried to reposition themselves. You kind of got between them. I mean, it's a little bit more situational. It's not the best answer, but I mean, Doom and Ronan are a very solid team, so there's not a lot you can really get going other than just trying to, force some aggro and then get them separated.
How do you beat Guinan and Murder?
Make him laugh. Buy him some flowers. Geigen is actually, I think him and Murder are one of the more solid teams in that they have very different strategies based on the decks they're playing. So I will say the one pattern I think I see is that most of their decks have one or two specific focuses. They don't have all-around decks. Like if you break these two different combos, he still has a Flame Sword, but that was never his goal, and it kind of shows in the way he builds his deck. So if you bring a lot of things to deal with multiple situations, if you can throw them off their strategy, it kind of opens it up. Your problem is the best bet, good luck picking which strategy they're going to bring so you can break it. Obviously with the two lacks, I think that's what we saw in Pano is he wasn't ready to get that strat broken, and once it was broken, they were kind of done.
I'm going to give you a little piece here. I was sharing this with other people, and I just wanted this to be known to Bregan in public. I have a couple of strategies that are just to make him mad come this next tournament round. And it's such a small community that I didn't want him to know. So I decided with Murder that we made like 12 different combo or snarky or tag team arsenals, so he'll have no clue which ones I'm actually going to bring.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
What other teams do you want to hear the poor choices insight from?
I might only be able to do one more with Goat as far as people I've played with. And Goat, I think, is kind of the opposite of Geigen and Murder in a way, where they do have some crazy strategies, but he does seem to have pretty all-around decks. So I think if you go at them with your own specific gimmick, be it vibration or whatever you're running, I think if you can get it started early before his strategy pays off, I would aggress early and keep to your strategy and just try to break it before he sets up whatever he wants to set up.
All right. There's one more you have to talk about though. That's Braggy Poo.
I was going to say, I kind of want to hear this. I want you to cite
Do you?
with sources using that 15 rounds of 1v1 we played against each other. How do you beat me?
Well, if even I can beat Bregan, there clearly has to be a hole in his game.
He won like 1 out of 14. He went like 14-0 and then finally won a game.
Do you hear that horn tooting in the background?
I don't.
I do.
Quite how it broke out.
And it's delicious.
But if it's not obvious from this witty repartee, he's very open to the mind game. Bregan is if he's in the zone, he's incredibly good, and it's very hard to kind of defeat him. I think you can see that if you're watching Doom. I mean, it is masterful timing, masterful play. And the reason I picked that Excalibur beat down is the time where things shift. It's Bregan as equally good, and as when he's on his game. Once he's off his game, he makes more poor choices than me, and is very susceptible to mistakes. So the real thing is, if you can throw Bregan off his game early, if you hit him with if you manually aim a few things and you hit him like a BS around the tree, you're going to throw off his next 30 seconds of gameplay.
Or if you mention in a video a week before the game that you've got like 10 combo arsenals to snark at him, mind games.
Yeah, if you can get him off his game, then you're doing well. As far as them being on their game, Bregan, you and Davio are both very solid. You have your own things that you run. I think really it's can you interrupt you? Can you put you guys on tilt for a second and then open up the game from there? Because once that domino falls, it's very hard to get back from that.
I'd have to agree. I think that would probably be one of our bigger
That's the
weaknesses
question.
is that me and Davio can both go on tilt. And you can see it in our gameplay. Like, you saw the shift in that last series versus Doom and Ronin. Like, we had our reduced entropy judgmented immediately, and like that was basically where they won the series. Like, after that, everything was like a foregone conclusion. Doom just came back and he stomped us on lane, stomped us on sign. Ronin played fantastic on sign, but I'd have to agree. It's a big mental block for us sometimes.
All right, I think that's my
right.
strategy for those.
Yeah, I apologize for 7 and 8 not getting it, but Poor Choices has only played with so many people. But Mimic, we believe in strategies to beat you also. And who am I missing? Ghost and Multitude?
Ghost, Multi, and Monkey Silver. I don't think I've played with them enough or seen enough footage to sort of throw something together on them. Which I think was my point with them is I don't know what they're bringing, so I don't even know how I would prepare for them. Because I don't know.
I'll give one call out. I'm gonna say for Ghost, this isn't a secret. Deal with dash.
Yeah, have a way to account for dash, and don't think you can just turbulence it because there's a 50-50 chance he's running orb and dash, which sounds like a horrible hand to hold, but he'll still kill you with it. So it works for him. But yeah, you gotta account for dash.
But if anyone was going to run Ice Sword Turbulence, I think that's one of the teams that would have it.
I love Ice Sword Turbulence.
The way I think of playing against Ghostweed is honestly you have to treat him like a cartwheeler that gets to cartwheel twice as long, and he can jump your dazzle.
No, that's fair.
That's a hilarious but fair one.
Monkey and Silver Saint. What would you say is your secret to beating Monkey and Silver Saint, Guinan?
You know what? Have not played once with either of them since this started. Murder's played with Monkey some. They go back. They're friends and such. I might have seen Silver Saint a couple times. Have not been in a room with Monkey.
I've actually played with him a lot, And I think as much as they've played together in their legacy team, really just splitting them up is the best thing. Focus one, like just go in hard on one of them, and you can almost guarantee that either you'll whittle the other one down or that they can't make the pickup. They're a team that they don't respond well to when either one's in trouble.
Hey, there was the moment I was able to exhaust him. Anyways.
Yeah, I would just say the best thing to do with them is go really hard on one of them, and yeah, just 2v1 them hard. They don't respond to distress very well when the other one's in trouble.
I mean, as opposed to people who just love getting 2v1'd.
Well, usually, I mean, if you see somebody that's getting 2v1, as long as you have an attack, generally the idea is you want to show up and at least try and take some of the
kind of
pressure
push
off
them
of them.
back.
And that's
Right,
something
right.
I don't think they do very well.
I
Okay.
actually love being 2v1'd because usually that means a murder's going to come in on like a horse and be my lovely cavalry.
Yeah, same with Davio. Saves me
Fair
that
enough.
way.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So I guess we'll move into. We've gone pretty long so far, but we need to talk about matchups. Let's start with last round's matchups, and we'll just try and go over them real quick. Maybe like one or two noteworthy things that happened. I guess we'll start with the bottom of the table. We'll work from the bottom up on this one. We'll only talk about teams that are still in, so
Okay.
we won't worry about any of the others.
So
Nathan and Wolf versus Ghost and Multitude.
I don't
where
have
we'll
much
start.
info about that, but I do know that it was unfortunate, I believe, from Nathan and Wolf, like some time and preparation things, is what I was kind of
Yeah.
hearing.
I believe it was 3-1 in the favor of Ghost and Multitude. I'm really interested to see those guys going forward. They've been on an upward trend, and I think if they put in more time playing Phantom Dust, they're still a legit contender for first place.
Yeah.
And then I guess we'll talk also Monkey and Silver State played Sandal and Filthy. Again, Monkey's always got some pretty long descriptions. I think you can pull it up if you want to put it up there on the video for a moment. The main thing I got out of it, because I talked to Monkey for quite a while after his match, and I played him for a couple of hours with my partner. We did some scrimming, and
Wait, this
They-
is the one.
they went in really hard on the jank. I think they said they hung all three of their wins, like memory lapse, reduce entropy. Like they just went all out on hanging in their last
Here it
round.
is.
They were really desperate to make the cut, so they went in real deep. on
Reduce
that.
entropy, then memory lapse. Someone needs one for tag. Refinery, they changed their plan, which is really interesting, they said. But then lane, they ran vicious. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, vicious
Start
balance,
everyone.
reduce entropy, memory lapse. So I guess you want to be ready for that if you face them later on. They're hungry. Let's take a look at the next one. We had a failure to play between Jokers and Gotrix, so there's not really much to say there.
Doom and Bragan, let's talk about it. Oh, wait. Mimic
Well-
played Will Rider and Math?
Yeah, we can talk about that one. Mimic and Mazrath versus I Will Math. So do we have that one? Do we have any videos of that one, or is there just a thread on that one?
Didn't see anything posted yet, I don't think.
Round 4. Nope.
Did they post a synopsis or anything? Do we have any information on that at all?
Give me a hot second, and I will let
No, I'm not seeing anything here. It was 3-2, I can tell you that much. So it was a close series. It just narrowly eliminated I Will Math from the tournament. Mimic and Mesrath, they're 3-1, but pretty much all of their wins have been against lower teams, and a lot of them messy 3-2s. So it'll be interesting to see these guys going forward, if they can clean up their wins, and if they can start taking down some of these other top teams. Then there was, without going too much into it, because we've talked about it a bit, my match versus Doom and Ronin.
Yep, they've
We
seen
had
the
a-
entirety of it, so...
Yeah, you've seen the entirety of it throughout the video. We started out with a really strong 2-0 lead just to get judgmented and completely reverse swept
They
in classic
tilted
Doom
like
fashion.
they tilted like
Yep.
pinball wizards.
I mean, it was very good. You guys had two
I
very
feel like
solid first.
I feel like
first
City and
games.
Lane were just kind of unwinnable due to some draws because they had the judgment just perfectly placed at the beginning of City, and then Lane, I never drew a shield, and Davio was stuck at 3 aura the whole time. So I felt like those weren't really winnable for us, and then by then we were just on tilt for Sign.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a pretty level-headed.
Yeah.
Is mine the last one?
Yeah.
Honestly, I tried to be too cute is one of the things I'll mention. Like, I played a lot of things that I wouldn't play today. We were kind of excited to play and probably could have taken a couple more days to play it. We're also half asleep. Things that we could have controlled. What do you think, Poor Choices?
I mean, yeah, like I said, it wasn't things I expected to see from you, especially like the Pano match. That being said, I mean, both of you at this point, both your teams were locked, and you were both, I think, locked for pretty much the top of the tournament.
Top 4 at least. Both, either way.
So it's hard to say that, you know, you want to bring out your best. I mean, I don't think you go in there trying to lose, but there's a difference between this is a must-win, here's everything I have, and let me try to see if these strategies work. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't do the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be very interesting to see if you guys play later on. But I don't think your loss was like an end-all, be-all, or that it really gave us too much information over to who is consistently the better team.
Besides,
and there's
Pano was a really long series, like back and forth the whole way.
Right.
I was going to mention too. I talked about it a lot because I did a commentary with Gotrix over this. So if you haven't checked out that video, you can see it on my channel, Bregan123. We did that, and I talked a lot about it. But it's one thing that I've been talking about since too. Is it's hard for me to judge when I'm watching that series versus when I'm playing at a game, because it felt like to me, and I heard some of this with Guinan talking about my series as well, like we're watching some of the players not play like we're used to seeing them play, and I'm starting to wonder how much of a difference there is when you're playing in a game versus, you know, watching a replay, because that was the same thing I felt when I was watching theirs, is that I felt like Reborn and Murder played some cute stuff, like he said, and they just weren't quite as good as I was used to seeing them. And also Xanxus and Zexus didn't feel like they were putting out as much pressure, because you watch a lot of those matches, and Xanxus and Zexus should have some of them in the bag a lot earlier than when they close out. Or, for example, they stall out and they don't win Palace. They actually have a draw in Palace, when Palace and Panorama should have ended a lot sooner, in my opinion. So
Probably Lane as well.
It's something I'm going to be interested, at least for me personally, going forward, since I'm doing a lot of commentary over these videos, to see if that's just because the recording makes it look that way, or if these teams have been underperforming. But I'm really excited to see a rematch there, because it was such a close match. So hopefully we do see them play again later on. And that said, I guess we'll move into the current matchups for this round.
We'll start from the bottom and top, I suppose. Like Xanxus and Monkey. This is our 8v1 seeds.
Yeah, Xanxus and Zexus versus Monkey and Silver. I think it's important not to sit here and just be like, oh yeah, obviously the first seed should be able to beat down the 8th seed, which is the easy prediction to make. But let's talk about what are Monkey and Silver's strengths, and what do they need to do in order to win this matchup and make the upset? What do you think, Gavin?
I think one thing they've got going for them is that Xanxus and Zexus play a lot, right? Like, they see a lot of these players a ton. And they use that, like, in their decision making. It would be crazy if they didn't. And so perhaps maybe Monkey and Silver, like, from my knowledge, they don't play as much, so they go under the radar a little bit. They haven't been
they play very different times.
Yeah, Xanxus and Zexus room, I mean. They haven't been playing at the same time. So perhaps that'll make a difference, you know, if they show that they're as ready to try flexible things. I think, you know, I actually believe if they do as well as they did last round, that they could win 3-2.
You know, I think it's definitely possible, and one of the things I've been seeing with Xanxus and Zexus' matches is every time it gets close or they get tried hard, there's been some hard jank, and almost every time it involves at least one disintegrate. And so I'm interested to see, because I know Monkey and Silver are able to pull off some pretty mean Arsenal combos, and I think that's a strength of theirs, and if they can pull those off effectively, whether it be a hanging, a vicious balance, a disintegrate, or, you know, something else entirely, some sort of dedicated popping, whatever it may be, there's a wide variety of things they could do. But if they can put together 2 or 3 solid sets of those, I think they could make the upset as well. Although, obviously, you have to favor Xanxus and Zexus here.
Yeah, I think Xanxus and Zexus got this. I already gave my anti-Zanx's strategy. I just think for the way that Monkey and Silver, from what I've read about their play, again, having not seen it, I mean, unless they're hanging something game-breaking in the very beginning, or they're getting off an immediate vicious balance, I think Xanxus and Zexus are going to kind of really put the hurt on them. If they can survive into the later play or mid-play, when their hanging stuff really sort of changes the flow of the game, I think they can certainly put on a really good showing. But I am thinking it's going to be 3-1 or 3-0, unless they can really sort of get their play out there early enough to survive that aggressive onslaught.
Yeah, if we get a dark horse, I actually like, Monkey's been impressing me, and he's been kind of secret to me because, like I said, I haven't played with him. But by the sound of things and by the statistics, I don't know. I give it a good, reasonable chance.
Nathan's early prediction of Monkey and Silver breaking top 4 is still alive by the barest margin. Sounds like you're buying into it now, Jake. Are you a believer in Monkey and Silver?
I don't know if I was until round 4, but round 4, they flexed their playstyle, and I'm a big Arsenal person, and that impressed me. So we'll see.
Are you a believer in Monkey and Silver top 4?
I think so.
To know. You've converted to the faith.
Zexus and Zanxus told me that I told them they're not allowed to lose because we have to beat them in the finals or semis. I don't know which side of the bracket we're on. But if they lose, I'll still be pretty proud of Monkey there.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it'll be interesting to see. Next round is the matchup between former partners again. This might be another grudge match. We have Doom and Ronan versus Ghost and Multitude, and we've talked about in previous podcasts that Doom and Ghost used to be basically the beast combo, almost unbeatable how well they played together. And now we're going to see them posed against each other. So what do you guys think on this matchup?
I think the Ghost has I don't want to sound like a broken record. They have a reasonable chance of winning if they play to their best.
I think the argument could certainly be made that Doom and Ronan are not the same team that they were week 1 and week 2. They are coming off the big loss to you, Geigen, and Bregan. You guys took them early. Not to say that you guys weren't playing really well, but I know, just from being online, I've seen Doom, I think, in Destiny. Ronan I've seen less and less of in the past 2 weeks. And I'm wondering how much of that is factoring in. It might really open things up to a big surprise.
Well, same with Ghost and Multitude as well. I've seen them a lot on Destiny. They haven't been playing as much throughout the tournament, and I think that is a big reason why they aren't higher ranked, because they didn't play as much.
Yeah.
They suffered a couple of upset losses early on as well. But I think it'll be really interesting because we have both teams coming in with not as much prep. And so if either team steps up and does the prep and plays, I think that team takes it. But we'll have to see which one of them is willing to do so.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
In skill level, I think it's pretty close, honestly. Peak Doom, maybe it would be no contest, but...
I mean, if we're talking peak skills, for me, Ghostweed's a top 3 player all time at peak skill. So even then, it's still close to Doom.
Well, we'll respectfully disagree there and continue to the next one. Wait,
what are you guys going to take? Win predictions on
I
that
think
now?
it's 3-2 Ghost.
All right, I'll go 3-2 Ronan. Doom Ronan.
Really, I got to say I'm going to go 3-1 Doom and Ronan. But I think Ghost and Multitude, if they put in the practice, like I said, I think they can take it. But if both teams show up in the form that they've been over the past couple weeks, I think Doom and Ronan still steamroll this.
Okay, should I be the only one making a prediction on the next one?
Yeah, basically neither me or Guinan here gets to talk very much about this next matchup. So I'll let you introduce it and talk about every aspect of it.
Okay, the next matchup is Geigen and Murder versus... Bregan and PDCCN or Davio?
PDDCM.
Okay. We all know who Davio is. Okay. So this one I think is interesting for a few reasons. I don't think any 4 players have played with each other as much as I think your teams square off against each other. And I think that's going to come in and be really, really kind of change and shake the matchup because you guys know exactly what each other has, what you're going to bring, what are your likes and dislikes as far as skills, levels, and all that. I will say, out of the teams I know of, I don't think anyone else puts in really more prep specifically for the tournament than both of your teams. I feel like you guys are, even when you're playing casually, you want to stick with your partner, and you guys are also kind of working out new potential strategies. So even from your casual play, I think it's more tournament prep based than a lot of these other teams. I know in the first matchup it was really close, and it was heartbreaker, but I do think Murder and Geigen have a slight edge in the rematch, mostly because they took the first one. But I think from you guys specifically, just based on the amount of prep that we see, I think either one of these teams are probably my tournament final pick. Although one of them, of course, is going to have to get there from the losers bracket. I say that, though, because I don't think either of these teams are down and out when they lose. If you look at the Geigen-Zexus matchup or Bregan Doom, I mean, you see, even in these really hard-fought matchups, that 2 wins are getting posted. I mean, it's constantly very close. I am going to give, so Murder and Geigen have that slight lead, but I'm going to give it another 3-2. And I'm assuming Geigen's going to take my advice and ban Palace this time out, just to see what happens.
We have a lot of plans. You will see them.
Yep. See, that's what I'm talking about. Plans within plans.
Just so you guys know, you're going to see it later, but I actually made a prediction because I've been drawing on my little infograph, but don't tell Bregan.
Gotcha.
See, okay, meta knowledge for everybody. We had a few, like 15 minutes struggling to get this put up because I had Guinan muted and didn't remember. Because this is exactly the kind of games he likes to play. He's always looking to tilt me, and so...
It's true.
You'll
it
hear
worked for Bobby Fischer.
At the end of this podcast, you'll hear from me once again after this round is over, Guinan.
Yeah.
Till then, it'll have to be radio silence.
One of our literal plans.
Because the thing I have to admit is it works. It freaking works.
Does.
I've literally said, how do we tilt Bregan? I've said that to Murder.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go radio silent on you until after our match. Because it does work. I admit it works against me. Our last matchup is Mimic and Mesrath.
We have to miss that lack. Darn, the lack didn't happen. Yeah.
Are we skipping your shame on Panorama?
No, we're pausing it. Yeah, Mimic and Mesrath, Goat and Silent.
Okay, well, as long as we start that back up, because I do want to relive that full 6 minutes of shame on Panorama. Just want to make sure that happens.
Poor choices of the tournament highlight, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? You get to call that once you finally sponsor us. How about that?
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh.
So this matchup, I'm excited about. I think these are all solid players. I don't think there's any much skill level difference. Like, this is going to be a close one.
Yeah, again, like every round, Mimic and Mesrath, and no matter what guest we bring on here, it seems like nobody's ever played these guys, hardly. We still know they favor a lot of the blazing and vibration dashes. They're pretty vanilla play style.
I spent 2 hours with Mimic today.
Yeah, you did mention that. And what are your thoughts then if you've played with him today? I
don't want to share things that would be unfair. I believe it was Mesrath's brother plus Mimic. So these are people who knew each other, but they weren't necessarily the tag partners. It was solid play. It was pretty consistent. They remind me of like Ghost and Multitudes play that I know of. You know, similar dash, defenses, turbulence. You know, the safe kinds of things. Yeah, I think it's going to be, if Goat wants to win, they either have to play really out there and catch them, or play the solid game and just look for errors, because everyone makes errors. I think one of those two will do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Whoops. We missed that whole game.
This is one where I think I'm actually predicting a draw. I think we're going to go to a tiebreak on. These are the two teams I think are the closest matchup out of the final playoff tournament.
No, it is the 4th and 5th place team, so according to the Swiss rounds, it should be too, statistically.
But I think Goat, if they stay on their game and they try to do their own thing, I think they're going to be okay. But Mimic, being my dark horse, I'm kind of predicting them to take it in the draw. It's going to come down to really interesting to see if, Goat and Silent try to really put something outrageous out there, or if they play more conservative and like Geigen said, just open it up and capitalize on mistakes. I think if they get too aggressive with the jank, they're going to suffer for it, is my little breakdown.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be loyal here, and I'm gonna say my old partner Gotrix is gonna be able to take this. I think it's gonna be 3-1 or 3-2 because I think Mimic and Mesrath play a hard and fast style that'll benefit them against them. So I think it'll be a pretty dirty series. But again, I struggle to want to go all in on my Mimic and Mesrath predictions because most of their wins have been against lower ranked teams, and their wins have been sloppy, 3-2 or 3-1. We haven't seen a lot of shutouts out of these guys.
Well, am I looking at this score sheet wrong, or did they? It looks like they both beat Sandal and Will Ryder. Is that accurate? But Mimic also beat Silver. I think is the way I'm reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went 3-2 versus Monkey and Silver, 3-1 versus Sandal and Filthy, and I think it was 3-2 versus Will and Math as well.
Which is exact same as Goat, except Goat when Gotrix played Will, they actually ended up drawing.
Yeah,
Gotrix did 3-0 in his first round, and his first round was against let's see, not Doom and Ronin.
Sandal and Filthy.
Yeah, he 3-0'd Sandal and Filthy. He did have a close series against Will and Math.
So Mimic beat Sandal 3-1 and had a less close series against Will and Math.
As
far as matchups, I think they had kind of the same road getting here.
Yeah, I think
is where I'm coming from.
My tell in this one is that Goat and Silent missed the round 4. It's unfortunate, and I think Mimic and Mesrath's practice might be able to capitalize on it. I think I'm going to give a slight edge. I love Goat. I don't want him to lose, but it's kind of what I'm feeling here from this.
I believe in Phantom Dust Goat. He can do it.
I hope so. But, I want everyone to win, so it's really hard to really say. Except for Bragan, he's going to lose. So anyways, got any more thoughts?
I guess that covers our matchups and predictions. And I wanted to move into some more fun stuff. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to talk about the matchups before we move on?
Poor choices. I have one last poor choice question.
Sure.
Which map do you think I'm going to tilt Bragan on?
You know what? You've not yet played Highway. I think if you really wanted to put them on tilt, throw their whole strategy, I would ban Palace, start with Highway, spam the heck out of him, do something crazy with the Still Moment or one of your crazy decks that he thinks is ridiculous, and he'll be so upset that he'll never get his footing. I think instead of trying to tilt him mid-match when he's on his game, you got to tilt him early so he doesn't expect it.
All right.
All right, ban Highway. Put that down.
Starting at Pano might be easy to get tilted too.
You can't start any later.
Okay, so I was going to move into fun question for everybody here. Which team's final placement in the Swiss rounds surprised you the most? Let's start with poor choices. Whose placement surprised you the most in the Swiss?
Will Riders and Math surprised me the most, just because like I said, I've played with those guys. I played them one-on-one. I played with them in tag, and I know they're better apart than what I saw when they showed up together. I think and if you're looking, they did, I think, have some of the most, one of the hardest schedules in just where it turned out. They faced Nathan and Wolf, they faced Gotrix and Silent, and they played Mimic and Mesrath. Their only win, I think, was Esper and Evolution, but if you look at those three teams they played, I mean, those are three really good teams, and if you're not 100% on your game, you're not going to show up in the way you need to. I don't know what would have happened if they had gotten it together quicker. I mean, I think they would have made the tournament cut. I don't know if they would have been, top seed, but I think we could have easily seen them make the cut if they had maybe meshed together a little better.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of interesting to see. They did take a loss to Nathan and Wolf, who also didn't make the cut, but we didn't really get to see them against some of the other lower ranked playoff teams, like say Monkey and Silver, Ghost and Multitude, or against myself. So it's hard to say where their rank truly was. I mean, we could play 8 rounds of Swiss, and eventually everybody would be, exactly where they deserve to be. But
Right.
yeah, it is surprising to see them not make playoffs, because I think I had them, if I remember correctly, in one of our earlier videos, I predicted them to make playoffs.
Yeah, for my surprise, it actually is related. I would have switched there in Monkey's position. I think Monkey would have just barely missed it, and Math and Will would have barely made it, based on my original. I mean, if I talked about my top 8 at the beginning, I also think Ghost and Nate switched in my predictions. Like, I thought that Nate was going to make it and Ghost barely wouldn't.
In a literal head-to-head fashion, they switched, actually.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so those are some... I mean, those are the points of contention that really happened. The only other one would have been Goat and Joker, but, that was foretold. But yeah, I really thought Will was going to be up there and Monkey would have... I was surprised they got it together, and I'm really impressed.
Yeah, it sounds like Guinan is a full-on tithe-paying member of the Church of Monkey at this point.
Yeah, I'm not monkeying around anymore.
Oh, man.
What's your
The
surprise?
quality,
to it.
the quality of our puns has been going downhill,
What's
guys.
your surprise, Greg?
I think
We're
that's
at the
I think
tail
that's a
end of
serious
them?
question we need to address at some point. My surprise, I was thinking about it before, but I'm actually going to change my answer, is Mimic and Mesrath. They're 2 players. They've always been kind of our wild card team. We didn't have a huge read on them, but they hadn't really, at least to my memory, been in any of the tag tournaments. And if they were previously in any of the tag tournaments, I don't think they made a deep run, because otherwise I would have had at least some memory of it. Yeah. These guys showed up, and I've expressed some doubts just because they've played against some of the lower teams, but they have had wins. They went 3-1. They are ranked 4th by the end of Swiss. And that is not a team I would have expected to make playoffs, honestly, let alone top 4. But lo and behold, here they are. They're ranked above me. Really would like to play them myself. I think it would be a real fun matchup. And they're top 4, whereas I would have probably ranked them easily bottom 4 at the beginning of this.
I could see where that unknown factor could definitely play into this.
Yeah, they're interested.
Certainly makes them interesting, though.
So let's go ahead and close this off. I'm ripping this off of something I saw on Reddit before. Let's do, for predictions, just some fun ones here. You got to make 3 predictions: 1 realistic, 1 bold, and 1 completely delusional.
Let's start with choices.
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of going to echo what I've talked about, but my realistic predictions, Xanxus and Zexus go 3-0 this round, and so long as they don't face Doom or Gigan, go all the way to semis or finals. I think that's a realistic prediction as far as easy to make. I think bold, I think Mimic and Mesrath not only beat Goat and Silent, are they gonna play you and Murder, Gigan, or Bregan?
I don't
Are we
have
not
the
sure how
full
that's gonna
bracket
make out?
right
Yeah,
now.
we don't have the bracket yet.
I think I would. All right. Well, depending on how that shakes out, I think they could put a good showing up against Doom and Ronan, Ghost Multi.
I mean, they did play Doom and Ronan, and they got. Apparently, it was not pretty. The 3-0.
But I think we've talked about, that was Doom 4 weeks ago, as opposed to where we've seen Doom now. So that would be my bold sort of. I think they're going to go farther, especially as the dark horse, since we don't have any video information than people are expecting. And my crazy, almost delusional prediction is Bregan and Gigan. Whichever one of you guys win is going to take the tournament. I think you guys
delusional?
both put in crazy amounts.
That's delusional. Somebody
To
find
call
us a new
this early?
co-host. This guy's out.
This early?
This guy's out. I want a new co-host.
I think it's delusional, and then I'm calling the winner based on a semifinal matchup.
I'd like to thank Poor Choices for his final appearance on Club Baroness. Thank you, sir.
Oh.
All right.
Delusional.
All right. I'm going to throw mine out just to not let you derail. Realistic. I think realistically, oh man, these are some hard choices. The one I'm thinking realistically could happen is that I think we're going to see jank from Monkey. I think it's going to work at least once or twice. I'm going to say twice. They're going to throw something out the Zexes and Zinxes aren't ready for, and it'll take it. But maybe they'll catch on. I'm guessing at least 2. That's my realistic prediction. Bold? My bold is still probably Ghost beating Doom. I feel like that one is.
That's a bold.
But I think it's there. I'm trying to think back on the things I've seen Doom do where he can beat Dash Orb, and I count them on one hand. So unless he really flexes his arsenals and their play style, I don't know. I don't know if they can handle that. Delusional? Delusional is Bregan wins a game. I mean,
see, that's meaner than mine.
Wait. Let's stop here. No, my my delusional is that Mimic and Mesrath are in the finals. I think that we don't have any reason to believe that yet, but I think they can take Goat and Silent because they're not ready. And I think they put up a sturdy showing in the semis, and they play one of our remaining teams, Xanxus, Murder, Doom, Bregan, one of these guys in the finals. Maybe win it. Maybe not. I'm thinking second place.
So,
all right.
Instead of delusional, mine was super bold. How's that? Was that less offensive?
No,
super
I like
bold.
offense.
We'll think about bringing you back. We'll call you.
Okay.
For mine, realistic prediction, I think Guinan and Murder Mastodon are going to make finals. I think they're the most well-rounded team in the tournament right now. I'm a big proponent of having a cartwheeler and a jumper, and I think they could definitely, if a couple things hadn't happened, taken that match over Xanxus and Zexus, and I don't know that they're going to win the tournament, but I do think they make finals. So that's my realistic prediction. The bold prediction is I'm going to have to say Gotrix and Silent making semifinals as well. They've kind of struggled back and forth here, but I think they're going to take down Mimic and Mesrath, and they'll make semifinals. They'll end up top 4 by the end of this.
Okay.
And my completely delusional prediction is that Davio and I are anime protagonists. We're going to lose this round versus Guinan and Murder Mastodon because you always have to lose to your rival twice. Then we're going to come through like lightning after having some sort of montage involving at least one Rocky song. And we're going to beat back in the finals. And because the anime story predicts it, then we're going to sweep the finals 3-0 versus Guinan and Mastodon.
See, I think that kind of goes with my delusional prediction. I could see you both one going winning bracket, one going losing bracket, and just winning with preparation, and then meeting in finals. I could that's in line.
It's an anime story. It's been foretold.
We'll draw 3 times in a row.
I mean,
3 in a row.
I don't see you winning the final in that scenario, but getting there, that'd be cool. If I'm not coming back, I might as well not come back with style.
Yes, I appreciate it. All right.
All right. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? Anything else?
I'd like to make a really important point. I know that some of our teams who have ended up on the lower end of this bracket may feel disheartened, but I am so impressed by absolutely everyone trying different stuff, showing up on time. I know Nathan was impressed by how quick we got these matches. Everyone has a life. I hope that everyone, whether it's the same partner or someone new, comes back and kicks my butt next time.
I think the participation's been fantastic in this tournament. I have to agree.
And I just want to echo that as an outsider looking in. It's been very cool to see everything going on. I'm really appreciative for the work everybody's putting in to produce the tournament and to show up and play in it. And just because you're at the bottom of the bracket doesn't mean you guys aren't better than 90% of the people playing the game, especially because I've played with a lot of these people. Props to everyone who came out and you put on some great matches for us.
And I'd just like to encourage everyone as well, those who have participated and those who haven't. There's going to be more tournaments coming. We really hope you've enjoyed the coverage. We're going to try and do those for both the 1v1 tournament, the Civil War tournament, and the next tag tournament. We're going to try and have podcast coverage. We'll do commentaries. I've been trying to do commentaries over games. It'll be easier in the 1v1 tournament because I can spectate your match. And just Yeah, get out here and play. We have so many good top players that haven't gotten into the tag tournament yet, and there's going to be a lot of mix-up at the end of this. And for those of you who've either been eliminated early in this tournament or tag team isn't really your style and you'd rather rely on yourself, join the 1v1 tournament. The sign-up's open today. I know there's a lot of names out there like Esper51 and Jay who may have finished low in the bracket on the tag tournament but consider themselves really strong 1v1 players. I'd like to see you guys come out and hit that up as well.
All right. Poor choices. Delusional prediction. Final words. Esper versus Jay. Finals the 1v1. Who wins?
Having played with both of them, pretty extensively, I've got to give it to Esper. I know I've played him in tag, and his stuff is pretty brutal in tag. But if he's hanging those same things, he's got those same decks in a 1v1 situation, I mean, it's hard to stop him. So I think I'd give it to Esper in that scenario.
All right. You hear that, guys. 100,000 credits on Esper's head. Beat him in the 1v1 tournament.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next week.
Yep.
Yeah.